Hello and welcome back to Formula for Average. This weekend we had the Austrian Grand Prix, so let's discuss that. But before we get into the Grand Prix action, there were a couple of other things which we need to start with. And let's start with the racing, and let's start with qualifying. The qualifying, I found it, let's say, dominant by one particular person. And of course that person is Lando Norris, and he had a spectacular Saturday. He was confident throughout the training sessions, and that showed in the qualifying. No arguing there. I think it was the biggest gap to second place in qualifying, at least this season so far. And he was just dominant. Nobody could argue with him on the track. Leclerc tried, Piastri tried, Verstappen tried. Actually, Verstappen was on a decent lap before his lap was ruined by the yellow flag, so that meant him starting at P7. So ultimately his weekend was awful, and it ended awful, but we'll discuss it later. So I think from qualifying there's only one big outlying result, and that's Norris. And coming from Canadian Grand Prix, where he made a relatively big mistake and drove into the back of Oscar Piastri and then ruined his race, ultimately, luckily only his race, let's put it that way. He knew it was his fault, and he knew it immediately, and he apologized, and all of that is good. And it was interesting to see where his mind is now in 2 weeks' time, when now he needs to step on the Austrian track. And historically, he's been very good at this track. I believe he got his first ever podium in F1 in this track, and ultimately he has been very good around this track, and he showed it here as well. So he showed it once again. He was dominant in the qualifying. And that was the good part, and it was good to see bouncing him back from pretty much disaster what happened in Canada. I guess pretty much that's it from the top 4, 5, 6 drivers. Then of course we have to mark that Lawson had a great weekend, Bortoleto had a great weekend. Their qualifying was great also, and it was good to see that those, let's say, usually, how to put it nicely, the guys who are usually in the second half of the grid, this time they were in the first half of the grid, so that's good to see. And also in the race, they showed that they are worthy to be here, and this was a good weekend for them as well. So without further ado, let's go to the race, and the race was a spectacular thing. Especially the first half, or the first stint of the race was action-packed. Then as the race went on, it a little bit faded, but still it was interesting, because there were always a couple of seconds between the first two, and this was the battle of McLaren. Basically for this weekend, there was nobody else who could show any kind of resistance to McLaren's dominance, and Norris showed his pace and showed his superior driving this weekend. Piastri, hats off to him. Actually, he did a great job for the first 20 laps, so basically first stint. He took the battle to Norris, and that was great to see, and it was clean battle. Yes, there was one sort of big mistake, where also the team got scared, but other than that, hats off to their racing. What happened there after the first pit stops, I think the Piastri took a little bit of a gamble, and he thought that he could be quicker on the clean air and beat Norris on the pit stops. on the pit stop strategy, so he took it a little bit longer, 4 laps longer than the Norris. But ultimately, I think he said it himself also, that this was the wrong decision. But that's on the hindsight, looking back on what has happened. But in that moment, they thought that this would be the best option to extend the lead. It turned out the other way. He came out of the pit stops and he was trailing, I think, 6-7 seconds to Norris. So ultimately, that was not the right decision. So they stayed out too late or too long, and then he tried to fight back in the third stint, but then with all the back markers and overtakings and that it just got a little bit too hard to follow Norris closely, because as soon as he closed down the gap, there was some back marker that they had to overtake, and that also ruined the whole little bit racing. But nevertheless, it was great to see. I think Piastri in that sense put a show, and he kept Norris at his best all the time, and Norris even after the race said that this was a hard race and he had to be focused. It was tough out there, and hats off to both of them. Norris showed a great pace, showed a great craft, and Piastri took or did everything he could in order to put pressure on Norris. So it was a great battle, great to see that, and it just makes the championship more interesting, and then that's also great to see. Then if we look down the order, Leclerc and Hamilton third and fourth. So relatively good weekend to Ferraris. Of course, if Max would have been in the battle, then not sure how that would play out. I'm pretty sure Max would be there for the podium. He would fight definitely. But Leclerc and Hamilton is still not. And the weird thing with Hamilton, I think it's still the same problem they have. They have not found the rhythm together with the team. And again, there was this sort of radio exchange during the race with Hamilton and his race engineer, how and when he should pit and should he extend his stint and so on. And it sounded a little bit like they are not taking into account anything that Hamilton is saying. So again, I have said it before, and it still sounds to me the same, that there is still a little bit of a power struggle there, like who is taking the shots and who is calling them. And ultimately, of course, the team has more data than the driver. So the driver, as good as he is and as much as experienced he is as Hamilton, for example, he still does not have the full picture of all the data. But in this particular case, I think it was in Hamilton's sort of opinion or power to call this shot, and yes, ultimately probably he wouldn't have gained anything. But on the other hand, he had, so when Charles pitted, he had like 10 or 9 seconds he was ahead when the Charles came out, so he had like a 9-second lead. And then George was back, I don't know, I look at the end data and end timing, and it was like almost 3 seconds he was behind. So okay, it was still 20 seconds to go, so there was a gap. There was a safe gap after or before George. So I think in this case it was reasonable for Hamilton to call for a change of strategy, just in case he could extend those tires until the end, because he had a good gap to Charles. And even if he would have fallen back, there was a safe bet. Okay, fine, I can't manage these tires until the end of the race, so let's do the swap, even put on some softs. I'm not sure if they had softs, but anyway, put in any tire and still finish in P4, because they were safe. And I think it was a safe call to let him race and see if he can extend those tires until the end of the race and take the fight to Charles. If not, then okay, fine, swap the positions, Charles take the P3 and everyone is happy. So again, they kind of played it very safe. They stick to the strategy. This was what they have probably agreed in advance. So it just shows that Hamilton does not have the authority basically in this team. On the one hand, it's good because the team always comes first and the driver has to respect the team. And then when the driver starts to disrespect the team, then all kinds of shenanigans happen, and then the fights and internal soap operas start to happen. So it's good that the driver respects the team. However, I think in order to spice up and make it interesting and give a chance, at least give the chance. And I feel that in this case Ferrari didn't give him a chance. So maybe he still has to earn their respect in the team. I don't know, but as I said, it still sounds like a power struggle in the Ferrari, especially with Hamilton. With Leclerc, it's more or less straightforward, and there was nothing much out of this race from Leclerc. But with the Hamilton, yeah, it doesn't sound that they have figured it out yet. Russell had a boring race, I would say, probably. He actually at the end he started to fall back. I don't know if it was just to save the tires or whatever, but he was slower than Lawson. He was slower than Bortoleto. So I don't know what happened with Mercedes. Obviously, the temperatures is their weak point at the moment. As soon as there is a hot day, hot temperatures, the power Mercedes is struggling, and they admitted it themselves. For example, Canada, it was relatively cold, and they were great. Now it was hot, 30 plus degrees the air temperature, 50 plus degrees track temperature. So they were struggling a lot, and they admitted themselves. They know this is their weak point. They have to fix it, but the problem is that they don't know how to fix it. So yeah, problem for Mercedes on this regard. On the contrary, great race from Lawson. It was I think this was the recovery from all the shenanigans. I wanted to say another word, but I have to keep it clean. With all the shenanigans of this season, what he has gone through, demotion from the big team to the sister team, and then also all the results that have come after. It was a bad season for him, but due to the different things that happened, and we'll discuss those in the first lap, he got up and took the P6, which is a great result, 8 points on the board for him. So great race from Lawson. But also, of course, you can say that for Alonso, great race. But you would expect that from Alonso. I don't know why, because I don't know, he's so experienced and so on. But you would expect that he would finish in the points. He started P11, finished P7. So you would expect that from him. But what comes next? And it is Sauber and Bortoleto and Hülkenberg. So this was a great team result. So 6 points altogether for Sauber, Kick Sauber. And Bortoleto, congratulations, scored his first points of the season. So he's also now out of the woods in that regards. 4 points for Bortoleto, good to see that. But also Hülkenberg, he had a great race. Despite the awful qualifying what he had, he made a mistake in the flying lap. Ultimately, started P20, P19, because Sainz had his own trouble, and the Williams has I don't know, they have to do something, but we'll get to that. But Hülkenberg, yes, from P20 to P9, that's or P19, to P9. That's a incredible result, and they took the chance. They took the early pit stop, and it paid off. And yeah, hats off to them. What can I say? They have been Sauber have been, let's say, in the last 3 races or so, they have been very, very good. Relatively very, very good. They have scored points for their capacity. They are very good now with their updates and upgrades coming in. So also this weekend they had some upgrades in the floor. So that's good to see, and I'm really happy for them. And I hope, as I was praising Williams a couple of races ago, and before everything went to hell for them. I'm now praising also Kick Sauber. They are doing a good job, and now they seem to be the ones who is, let's say, getting closer to the podium than the others. Of course, they are still far away, and I'm not very optimistic that they could score a podium this year. But they are collecting valuable points, and that's good to see. And they have very decent races, and they are there. They are becoming competitive. Haas next. Again, two teammates finished right beside each other, P10, P11, Ocon and Behrman. Ocon had and also very good recovery race from P17 to P10, took 1 point. And with Haas, it's interesting because their race pace seems to be very good. They are competitive. On a chance they are I don't know, fighting with racing bulls. They are sometimes even fighting with Astons and so on. Maybe in a good day they could take the fight even more up the order, but they're qualifying. They are bad, and they have to fix it if they want to score some decent points. Because again, like they started, where did they start? P15, P17, so that's both of them. Okay, Behrman got into Q2, but anyway, basically they are on the brink of Q2, Q3 all the time. They can't get out of Q3 consistently, so that's their Achilles, and they have to fix it, because in the race they can climb up, especially if something happens as this race. So with this being said, let's jump to the interesting part of this race again, and the lap 1 sort of jumping back, and we have to talk about the Antonelli and Verstappen crash. Well, what can I say? Not much, to be honest. It was interesting, and it was a shock moment from the viewers and from the fans' perspective, but ultimately it's pretty simple what happened there. Of course, Antonelli admitted himself he messed up. Basically, it was his mistake. He locked up, and then he tried to correct the mistake. By the time he tried to correct the mistake, it was too late. He outbraked himself, and he crashed into Verstappen. End of the story. End of both of their races. So not much basically to analyze there, except that Antonelli is he's a rookie, and he had a rough patch in the last couple of races. Then he had a great race in Canada, and now again he has a rough patch, and yeah, I guess experience, that is what he's missing at the moment, because he's great for a driver. He's showing glimpses of great driving. He's showing glimpses of great nerves and keeping it together, but sometimes I think this is one of the cases that ultimately the lack of experience, or wanting to do too much in the first lap, this is something that he's still missing, and I think it's pure maturity. He has the racecraft, or he has the talent. He just needs to develop it and make it more consistent. But again, comes with the youth, or quite the opposite. It comes with age, so he has to gain the experience in order not to make these kind of mistakes. And it was good to see that Verstappen was also not so, let's say, he was not mad. Yes, in the heat of the moment, he said some not so nice words about, but when he realized what happened, they talked to each other. And Verstappen, even after the post-race show, his post-race interview, he said that, look, he came to me, he apologized, all good, everybody makes mistakes, so it is what it is. Although this is a huge blow for the Red Bull, because Tsunoda is still not performing, and he's lost. And it seems to me that Tsunoda is going down the same way, or the same path as Checo did, as Lawson did. It's just the second seat in Red Bull is cursed. I'm joking, but I mean, there is no result. There is nothing. He's bad in qualifying. He's bad in the racing. He made a mistake. He made a collision with Colapinto. Took the 10-second penalty again. So, and they can't score points. And Horner now admits that they are out of the championship fight, basically. And Max is still trailing, what it is, 46 or whatever points. but they are ultimately out of the championship fight, and they know about it. So yeah, tough patch also for Red Bull, and I don't know about the second seat. They are training the new guys, but I think the problem is that this year is done for them. In my opinion, they can't recover from this. I'm looking at what's coming, and I think I'm not going to be surprised if Tsunoda gets benched or swapped out to someone else in the last couple of races, just to give a heads up start to someone else in the team. Not sure who's going to be, because if they offer the job to the Hajar, I think he would not. I don't know. It's a tricky situation there, but because seeing how that second seat goes for Red Bull, it's nobody wants to do it again, because yeah, it is what it is. But interesting from fans' perspective, we have something to talk about, obviously. So in that sense, it's very interesting. And again, of course, awful weekend for Williams in the track where they relatively should be good, because this has 3 DRS zones. It's a fast track basically, and Williams has a fast car, and it's the medium corners where they struggle. But this was their sort of track, and Albon was on a good basically position to fight for points. He was P6 on the time when he got car issue. I don't know what it is still at the time of the recording. I didn't find what was the reason of Albon's Williams to be DNF'd, but yeah, it's a shame for Williams. They seem to have like a rough patch. I think last year it was sort of the same. They had a very good run, and then towards the end of the year they had a rough patch. They had some crashes, double DNFs and whatnot. They were scrapping for parts, and there was even a rumor that they might not start some races because of all the problems they have. And now in the first, let's say 5, 6, 7 races, they were really good. They were climbing up, and I even spoke about some podiums probably coming towards them during this year. Hopefully, I'm still optimistic that it might happen. However, these last couple of races with, I think, was it the second double DNF or something? Okay, in Canada, Sainz scored 1 point, but overall it was also a bad weekend for them, and this was even badder, if that's a word, more bad. Yeah, Sainz with the trouble. He did not even start the race. There was issue with his rear brakes, and yeah, it's just a weird one with Williams and how they are not able to put it together. And again, it seems that they have some kind of a black stripe or whatever you like to call it. So they have to get their things together, and they have a decent car. And now coming up next week, Great Britain, Silverstone. I hope that they can be competitive again, and I hope that they have learned from, or they have found the issues. What is ruining their races? Because the drivers are great. I guess at this point it's the team and it's the car which is failing them, because the drivers are great, and I think that the drivers are capable of showing very good result, and we have seen that. Was it P5, P something, and during this year already, so they have showed that good pace. But yeah, last couple of races something is wrong there, and they have to figure it out. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much from the race itself. Although there are a couple of other things I still want to discuss, and not to keep it very long, this podcast, because we have one coming next week again. But 3 more things that I want to point out, which is interesting and worth to discuss, I believe. First one related to racing and contracts, and this is Russell. And Russell not having a contract yet. So yeah, it's a little bit of a confidence blow, I believe, for Russell, because last week he won Canadian, not last week, last race weekend. So 2 weeks ago he He won the Canadian Grand Prix, and he's performing very well this year, and he is, with a bit of a luck and improving the car, he could even put the fight up for championship. Well, it's far-fetched at the moment, but you never know how the second half of the season will go. But he still does not have a contract, and the Mercedes is sort of not signing that contract. And I think what has shown in the press already that this is linked to Verstappen, because Verstappen still has a contract in place with Red Bull until 2028. However, he's not probably so much happy with the team anymore. So there are rumors, of course, that he might not finish his contract and he might have an exit clause sooner, which is related to his position in the championship, although his position is currently third place in the drivers' championship, and apparently the sort of contract exit point was P4 in the championship, so he's sort of in a good place from contract perspective, so he should extend with Red Bull. However, these rumors are circling, and that Verstappen has not said it that firmly he's staying. So also Mercedes is kinda hunting him, saying that they are waiting for what Verstappen's gonna do, and then depending on that they are sort of delaying the signature of Russell's contract, and it does not look good, because they kind of say that yes, we have full trust in Russell, however they are not signing the contract, so it's a little bit of abysmal there, and I think there are some heat is building up, and I hope it's just the media making noise, and in reality everything is good. However, it's still fact that Russell does not have a contract. So that's interesting. And apparently there's also Aston Martin circling Russell and looking for possibilities there. And as we remember, there was even some month ago, there was news that Aston is putting some huge amount of money. They're ready to put in some huge amount of money for Verstappen. So it's all the silly season, and these rumors, they are happening. But yeah, we'll see. We'll need to wait and see what will happen. At this stage, it looks like with most likely scenarios that Verstappen will stay at Red Bull, Russell will have a new contract with Mercedes, and everybody will be happy. But at the moment, it's not the case. So we're watching that. The next thing, what also popped up some news. It's not that big of a news, but still worth to discuss, I believe. Is Sebastian Vettel returning to Formula One paddock. That's the rumor, but not as a race driver. I think that time has gone. But returning as Helmut Marko's substitute, because Helmut Marko is now, I believe, 84, so he's soon expected. Well, eventually he will retire, and he be his successor as a consultant, as a key figure in the Red Bull team, responsible for drivers and other stuff. So that would be interesting. I'm not sure if they are the same type of guys. Probably not, because Helmut Marko strikes me as a hardcore old generation guy who says, like, this is how I want it to be, and this is how it's going to happen, and that's it. You have no other saying. Where Vettel, to me, is more like a democratic kind of guy, which more of a discussion, more open to different scenarios. So we'll see what will happen. It would be good to see him back in the F1 paddock. So yeah, we'll see. But that's also rumor that surfaced this week. And the last thing before I end the podcast, and I will not keep it long, we have to discuss the F1, the movie. So I saw the movie. and it was hard for me to watch. And it's not because there are different reasons. Let's start from the good thing, and I think that every Formula One fan should see it, and I think that in overall it will do a good for the sport. It will attract new fans, and it probably will reach much more wider audience than the F1 itself. So it's a good platform to bring in new people to see to show the interest of the sport, to have some glimpses of what the sport is about. However, someone who has been following Formula One for years, it was hard to watch, just because, and I was thinking about it, why it is so hard. I didn't have high expectations for the movie. I was going into the movie with a kind of a, okay, let's see. I know that there's going to be some Hollywood there. Probably the scenario or the plot will not be the strongest. It will not be the strongest movie. It will be straightforward. It's a blockbuster. It's supposed to attract a lot of audience, so it has to be sort of lightweight and simple to understand. So I was not expecting some sort of like a, I don't know, hard to follow, very mixed up detective story or something. No, I was expecting that it will be simple. However, the thing that I think what messes me up is that it was made, they tried to make it so authentic that there were these glimpses of authenticity, and the paddock and the racing and the drivers and the real drivers and the real characters, team bosses, technical directors and so on, they were all there. So it was kind of, you were watching a regular race weekend in a way. However, it's a fiction, and there's this drama around it, so it's hard to watch than you watch fiction with some real life elements put into. So I understand what they were trying to do, and they were trying to deliver the most realistic racing movie, arguably, and the racing scenes are great, and they look, with some exceptions, they look really great and even better as they would in the real life. However, then there are these, I don't know, weak points, and yeah, for me as a sports fan, it was hard to watch, because I was all the time analyzing, okay, this is how it would not happen in real life. Well, this is not how it would happen in real life. And I understand, as I said, there is a Hollywood aspect to it, and that's great. But this mix of reality and fiction, and when you smush it together, it kind of messes with your mind, and you can't understand sort of, is it good, is it bad, is it fiction, is it real life? Yes, it is how it's supposed to be in the real life. However, it should be a fiction, or it is a fiction, and then it's not how it's supposed to be, and all these things messes with your mind all the time, and you can't. Let's put it that way, I was not able to enjoy the movie because I was analyzing it all the time, and I know it's my problem probably, because I have seen too much of real life Formula One racing. But yeah, it was weird, this mix between the authenticity and fiction. It was for me, this was the most hard part. And the story, yes, it's very American, simple story. You could, in the first 10 minutes of the movie, you can guess how it will end. But that was not even my problem. As I said, the story is simple, so okay, fine, I can go with it. But this mix between things and how it should be in real life and how it's not in the real life, however it is the real life and then it's not the real life, and so that was my problem with the movie. But as I said, it's fun, you should watch it. I suggest everybody to watch it at least one time to see, and I'm sure it will attract new audiences, and hopefully because of this movie there will be more fans to the Formula One, so that's good for the sport. but for the existing hardcore fans, it will be a hard movie to watch. But it's a movie. It's a fiction. We have to remember that, and it's a great thing that such a thing has happened, and great respect of how they have visually put it. It's a great spectacle, not a great movie. So yeah. So that's all from my side on this one. Very quickly on the championship, we have had some switches in the order. So most notable one is Ferrari again surpassing Mercedes only by 1 point at this stage, but still now Ferrari is second and Mercedes is third in the Constructors' Championship. McLaren is still extending their lead in the first place, and that's understandable. In the drivers, the big thing now is that Norris is only 15 points trailing to Piastri, so that's interesting to see. And of course, I think this battle will continue to it will become more and more interesting as we go in soon in the second half of the season. Now Verstappen, with a huge blow of this weekend, is trailing more, 46 points, but still 46 points. He need to have 2 good weekends, and McLaren has to have 2 bad weekends, and he's back in the mix. So it's not too early to write him down. And the same for Russell. He's almost only 9 points behind Verstappen, so he's holding on there. And if the Mercedes can improve the car, I think he still has a chance. It's far-fetched, but he still has a chance in that sense. And then Leclerc and Hamilton, I'm not sure if they are probably they are not in the fight, in the mix. But first 4 places, I still believe that they are in the mix, and it could become interesting. And the second season after the British Grand Prix, next week we have a British Grand Prix, and then we have a couple of weeks off, and it will be interesting to see what the teams will bring afterwards. And it will be interesting, very interesting second half of the season. Still 1 race to go, and then we go into the second half. So next week, Great Britain, Silverstone. We'll see what the spectacle will bring to us. Until then, thank you very much for listening. Stay safe, and bye-bye.